Everything you learned about the Amazon is wrong. The rainforest is not the untouched paradise we like to imagine. It's not the green hell where only the most primitive people can survive. It's a shroud, a living shroud that's hiding something we forgot to see. For centuries, we've been telling ourselves the same story. The Amazon, empty, wild, uncivilized, a place where complex societies could never have formed. Too wet, too dense, too hostile. That story was convenient. If a land is empty, you can take it. If the people there are primitive, you can ignore them. If it's just nature, you can develop it. European conquerors talked about the green hell, the green inferno. They described the inhabitants as savages, as people without history. For colonial powers, that was gold. If a people supposedly has no culture, they also have no claim. But beneath that story, another truth was buried. A truth that was dangerous for the self-image of the conquerors. Because a primitive tribe you can dismiss, a high civilization you have to explain. For a long time, that other truth stayed invisible. The rainforest is a master of concealment. Anything that falls is swallowed in just a few years. Roads vanish under brush, temples sink into seas of leaves, entire cities dissolve into green. Until we started seeing with light. LiDAR, laser pulses shot down from planes or satellites, piercing the canopy, millions of invisible rays that scan every leaf, every branch, every trunk, and then strip them away, revealing the ground underneath, as if you were peeling the skin off the rainforest. And suddenly, beneath that green skin, lines, rectangles, perfect angles, not the work of nature, structures, geometry, order, cities. One of the most spectacular sites lies in eastern Ecuador, in the Upano Valley. Today, all you see there is forest. Nothing but forest. But between about 500 BC and 600 AD, it looked very different. With LiDAR, researchers have found over 6,000 earthen mounds, a settled area of more than 300 square kilometers, roads stretching up to 25 kilometers across the landscape, straight, planned, intentional. The building density? Comparable to a mid-size European city. The complexity? On par with major Maya centers. But here, no stone tikal rises out of the jungle. Almost everything was built from earth, shaped, molded, piled up, perfectly camouflaged in a forest that devours anything that stands still. Between the mounds, archaeologists find evidence of complex irrigation systems, canals, terraces. These people didn't just endure the rainforest, they engineered it. They directed water, stabilized slopes, improved soils. And that's where something appears that's almost more mysterious than the cities themselves. Terra Preta, man-made black earth. At first glance, it looks unremarkable. Darker, almost black soil, speckled with tiny pieces of charcoal, pottery fragments, organic bits. But its properties are almost supernatural, extremely fertile, extremely long-lasting. Centuries, maybe millennia, without being worn out. The true code of these lost cities isn't carved into stone, it's written into the soil itself. Terra Preta is not a dead black burial shroud covering the past. On the contrary, Terra Preta is a living shroud, a shroud of resurrection. This earth devours everything, but not to make it disappear. It eats death and spits out life. Wood remains, bones, ash, shards, plant waste. All of it is preserved, transformed, charged inside this dark matrix. The ancient builders didn't raise stone pyramids to outlast time. They changed the ground so it would stay fertile forever. It's as if they said, if we must go, our knowledge should keep growing, not in libraries, in roots. And that's exactly what happened. The rainforest we now call untouched may, in places, be the resurrection of these cities, not their grave. Terra Preta calls life to it, pulls plants in like a magnet, feeds every root that touches it. It doesn't cover the past with a death shroud. It draws a living green shroud over it, a shroud that grows, spreads, devours everything. and at the same time preserves everything. From above, all we see is this green shroud, an endless forest. But when LiDAR strips away the leaves, the geometry of a forgotten order appears underneath. The rainforest didn't just grow over this world, it grew out of it. But what happened to the people who lived here? Between around 500 and 600 AD, this culture begins to fade. No Hollywood-style explosion, no single dramatic date, more like a slow collapse. Shifts in climate, droughts, failing harvests, diseases spreading along roads and rivers, internal conflicts, maybe wars with neighboring groups. Later, the arrival of foreign conquerors whose germs were deadlier than their weapons. Archaeologists see traces of abandonment, relocation, shrinking populations, a network of cities, and then gaps. For the people of the Amazon, the idea of world's ending is nothing new. Many groups tell stories of great floods, righteous anger, worlds that go under. A shaman who warns of coming waters, a man who builds boats while others laugh. A flood that washes everything, and a new humanity that walks on the ruins of the old. What if these myths aren't just fantasy, but distant echoes of real catastrophes, droughts, floods, epidemics, events that swallow entire cities and leave behind a new world in the cracks? Maybe the people of the Upano cities also looked up at the night sky one evening, seeing meteors streak like fire across the horizon, heralds of a change they could no longer stop. In many cultures, such lights in the sky are signs. The world as you know it is about to be tested. But even if their houses crumbled, their roads were reclaimed by the forest, their state dissolved, their knowledge didn't just vanish, it transformed into soil, into terra preta, into a forest growing out of their gardens. Maybe they sensed that their era as city builders was ending, but they chose to be devoured by something that would go on living, by life itself. Today we talk about uncontacted tribes in the Amazon, small groups who avoid any contact with the outside world as if they know exactly what contact brings: disease, exploitation, loss. We see them as leftovers from the Stone Age. But what if there's something else entirely? The last, thin line of a high civilization that retreated. Survivors, not relics. They walk on soils their ancestors created. They hunt in forests growing on the ruins of their cities. They may still tell stories of floods, fires, foreign sicknesses, spoken shadows of a collapse we're only now reconstructing through archaeology. And us? We fly over their heads with sensors, pierce the forest with laser eyes, break the green seal hiding their past. Antarctica, a world under ice. Göbekli Tepe, a warning sign under stone. Amazonia, cities beneath trees, swallowed by a living black shroud. Everywhere, we're finding traces of cultures that were large, complex, interconnected, and then disappeared into soil, ice, and rock. Maybe we're not the first civilization to reshape this planet. Maybe we're just the first one that can watch it dying. From orbit. And while we tell ourselves the Amazon is a last wilderness, we may actually be walking across an ancient cemetery, or a garden a lost humanity planted for us. The question is no longer whether something was there. The question is, how much is still hidden beneath that green ocean, in the parts of the Amazon we've never scanned with LiDAR? And will we listen to the warnings in the soil, in the ice, in the stone, this time? Subscribe to Wonderworld Mega to join us on our next spectacular journey through history.